Hello class, welcome to today's class, and today we're going to learn about the management history. Before we begin with learning about the management history, we will look at the major approaches to management. In this module, we will look at four major approaches to management theory, which is classical, quantitative, behavioral, and contemporary approaches. But before we discuss all the four major approaches to the management theory, we will look at the historical background of management, which will show us the early examples of management, and we will also look at the first theory of management, which was written by Adam Smith on his book The Wealth of Nations, and we will look at the historical background during the Industrial Revolution of management practices. But keep in mind that each approach is concerned with trying to explain the management theory from the perspective of what was important during that time and the background and the interest of the researchers during that time. Each of the four approaches is contribute to our overall understanding of management, but each is also a limited view of what it is and how to best practice it. To begin with, we will look at this video. I will share you one video that shows how an early example of management happened on the ancient times on the making of the Pyramid of Giza. Let's watch them together. Alright. Well, actually, on the next video, I have another example, which is the Great Wall of China. But to make it short, we will skip this one. If you want to watch it, you can find in YouTube from the National Geographic channel. Well, let's go back with this lesson. The management history, the early management. Looking at these two magnificent ancient buildings, the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Great Wall of China. Looking at these two magnificent buildings, we can imagine how management practices are applied from many years ago, since 1,000 years ago. Management has been practiced a long time. Organized endeavors directed by people responsible for planning, organizing, leading, and controlling activities have existed for thousands of years. The Egyptian pyramids and the Great Wall of China. These two magnificent ancient buildings are proofs that projects of tremendous scope that employs tens of thousands of people were completed in ancient times. It took more than 100,000 of workers. It took about 20 years to construct a single pyramid. Can you imagine who told the workers, who told its workers of what they have to do on their daily routine? Who told all the workers to do this and to do that? And who ensured that there would be enough stones at the site to keep the workers busy? The answer is the manager. Someone had to make plan of what was to be done. Someone have to organize the people, the materials, and to make sure all those workers and all those materials are being used efficiently to get the work done, and to impose some controls to ensure that everything was done as planned. So, management practices has been applied, has been implemented since many, many years ago. We have seen the proof of these two magnificent ancient buildings, the Great Wall of China, the Great Pyramid of Giza, are two proofs of sample of management practices that happens on the ancient times. Another example of early management can be found in the city of Venice, which was a major economic and trade center in the 14th centuries. The Venetians developed an early form of business enterprise and engaged in many activities common to today's organization. For instance, at the Arsenal of Venice, the warships were floated along the canals, and at each stop, the materials and riggings were added to the ship. So during this era, on the canal of Venice, on the Arsenal of Venice, the business operational or the business activities are begin, the trading system are begin to develop or to are begin to be practiced by the people during that era. Next, we are going to look at Adam Smith's book, which was called The Wealth of Nations. In 1776, Adam Smith published his book, The Wealth of Nations, in which he argued the economic advantage that organization and society would gain from the division of labor or job, or what we know now as the job specialization. Adam Smith has the idea of management that people should be directed, people should be classified to do the job by making the division of labor, or what we know now as job specialization. That is breaking down jobs into narrow and repetitive tasks. And he used as an example the pin industry as an example. Smith claimed that 10 individuals, each doing a specialist task, could produce about 48,000 pins a day among them. So when people are being divided or are being classified according to their competencies, according to their job specialization, he argued that they produce more, they produce higher than if they were not being specialized. And then, starting up in the late 18th century, when machine power began to substitute human power, at this point of history known as the Industrial Revolution era, it became more economical to manufacture goods in factories rather than at home. If we imagine during that era, people, they have to fulfill their needs by themselves. For example, if they need soaps or if they need shampoo, they have to produce it by themselves. During this era, there were not so many innovation or invention on machinery that can help people to fulfill their daily needs. As I mentioned, for the example is the soap and the shampoo. But starting in the late 18th century, when invention, people begin to innovate machinery. Machine power began to substitute human power. Large efficient factories begin to operate, and they need someone to forecast the demand and to ensure that enough material was on hand to make the product, and to assign tasks to people or to the workers and direct daily activities and so forth. And that someone was called the manager. Well, after looking at those early management examples, now we're going to learn about the first approach on management, which is the classical approach. In 1911, Frederick Winslow Taylor's he began with his idea, written his book that is called The Principles of Scientific Management. The content of this book were widely spread and embraced by managers around the world. Taylor's book described the theory of scientific management, which is using scientific method to define one best way for a job to be done. Taylor is a mechanical engineer with a Quaker and Puritan background. He was continually upheld by workers' inefficiencies. Employees use vastly different techniques to do the same job. So, if we can imagine, during that era, people are doing one particular job, but they do it differently. So, we can imagine the end result will be vary or will not be similar, because all the workers are doing the job according to their to what they know, using the method that they knew, using the way that they want to use. So the result will be vary and will not be similar. So Taylor set out a remedy that by applying the scientific method, the one best way for such jobs to be done. Taylor experiences at Midvale led him to define clear guidelines for improving production efficiency. He argued that these four principles of management would result in prosperity for both workers and managers. So, he has the ideas of four principles of management, that this principle of management will give a good result for both managers and the workers. His four principles of management are: number one, develop a science for each element of an individual's work to replace the old rule of thumb method. So we have to develop a science or a scientific method to do a job, to replace the old rule. And then the second one is scientifically select and then train, teach, and develop the workers. So we have to conduct a training, not only training, before they get trained, we have to conduct a selection and recruitment activities and then train the workers and develop them to do the job. The third one, heartily cooperate with the workers so as to ensure that all work is done in accordance with the principles of the science that has been developed. So all the members of the organization have to work together to cooperate and to ensure that all the work will be done according to what has been targeted. And the fourth one is divide work and responsibility almost equally between management and workers. Management does all work for which it is better suited than the workers. So divide the work. The same ideas as what Adam Smith have written on his book, The Wealth of Nations. Next, we have Frank and Lillian Gilbert with their approach. Frank and Lillian Gilbert, Frank is a construction contractor. Frank and Lillian, his wife Lillian, who is a psychologist, he, after hearing Taylor's speech at professional meeting, Frank and his wife Lillian, a psychologist, they studied how to eliminate inefficient hand and body motion. Okay, so his approach is to eliminate inefficient hand and body motion. Well, this couple has 12 kids. So we can imagine how these couples manage their kids, how these couple have to uh, take their daily activities, how they have to manage their daily activities to take care of their 12 kids. So they think of something. They have to think of a method to eliminate inefficient hand and body motion. The Gilbert, the Gilbert also experimented with the design and use of the proper tools and equipment for optimizing work performance. They begin to innovate tools or any equipment that will help them to do their job. Also, as parent of 12 children, the Gilbert ran their household using scientific management of, principles and techniques, and two of their children wrote a book, Cheaper by the Dozen, which described the life of the two masters of efficiency. So the Gilbert couples, they promote the efficiency method in eliminating inefficient hand and body motion. Well, that is the classical approaches of management. And now we're going to learn about how today's manager using scientific management. We're going to learn the general administrative theory by Henry Fayol. General administrative theory is focusing more on what managers do and what constitute good management practice. So he highlighted about what managers do and how to have a good management practice. Fayol wrote during the same time period as Taylor. While Taylor was concerned with the first line managers and the scientific method, Fayol's attention was directed at the activities of all managers, all level of management. He wrote from his personal experience as the managing director of a large French coal mining firm. He described the practice of management as something distinct from accounting, finance, production, distribution, and other typical business functions. Fayol introduced his 14 theory. Okay. Okay. Here are his 14 principles of management. Fayol's 14 principles of management, in which he described uh, principles of management. The first one is division of work. Okay, this is the same idea as Adam Smith have been written on his book. Division of labor or division of work. Specialization increases output by making employees more efficient. Second, authority. Managers must be able to give orders, and authority gives them the right to do so. And then the third one, discipline. Employees must obey and respect the rules that govern the organization. The fourth one is unity of command. Every employee should receive orders from only one superior. So one superior, they can manage many employees, but one employee should receive orders from only one superior. The fifth one is unity of direction. The organization should have a single plan of action to guide all the managers and all the workers. The sixth is subordination of individual interest to the general interest. Well, this is very important. The interest of any one employee or group of employees should not take precedence over the interest of the organization as a whole. So, the organization interest is the most important thing than anyone in the organization. Okay, and the seventh is remuneration. Workers must get paid of a fair wage for their services. So organization must make a good regulation for wage system, and they have to give a fair wage for all the workers accordingly to their services. The eighth one is centralization. This term refers to the degree to which subordinates are involved in the decision making. The next one is scalar chain. The line of authority from top management to the lowest ranks in the scalar chain. Okay. And then order. People and materials should be in the right place at the right time. Equity. Managers should be kind and fair to their subordinates. Equal. Okay. Equity. And the stability of tenure of personnel. Management should provide orderly personnel planning and ensure that replacements are available to fill vacancies. So, stability and the human resource planning. Okay, if there's someone who get fired, then the organization should prepare someone who will replace them. And then the certain is initiative. Employees who are allowed to originate and carry out plans will exert high levels of effort. Okay, and the last one is esprit de corps, promoting team spirit that will build harmony and unity within the organization. So these are the 14 principles of management that is proposed or promoted by Henry Fayol. Next, we will going to learn about the general administrative theory, which was promoted by Max Weber. Max Weber was a German sociologist who studied organization. He writes in the early of 19th centuries, and he developed a theory of authority structures and relations based on an ideal type of organization that he called a bureaucracy. A bureaucracy is a form of organization characterized by division of labor, a clearly defined hierarchy, a detailed rules and regulation, and impersonal relationships. Max Weber, he promotes what we know now as bureaucracy. A bureaucracy, as described by Weber, is a lot like scientific management in its ideology. Both emphasize rationality, predictability, impersonality, technical competence, and also authoritarianism. Although Weber's ideas were less practical than Taylor's, the fact that his ideal type still describe many contemporary organizations attests to their importance. So, from his theory, we now know about the bureaucracy, and in organization, the bureaucracy, the hierarchy, a divine hierarchy, we can look at, can be described through the structural of organization or the organizational structure. Okay. The characteristic of Weber bureaucracies are: the first one is division of labor, as we have mentioned earlier. The division of labor, jobs are broken down into a simple, routine, and well-defined task. And then we have authority and hierarchy. Positions organized in a hierarchy with a clear chain of command, which we know now as the organizational structure. It's shown in our organizational structure. And then formal selection. People selected for jobs based on their technical qualification. Formal rules and regulation. System of written rules and standard operating procedures must be written clearly, so everyone in the organization knows about this formal rules and regulation. Impersonality. Uniform application of rules and controls, not according to personalities. So everyone in the organization must follow the rules. No one are the exception. Everyone should follow the rules and the regulation that the organization have written down on his policy or on his regulation. And then career orientation. Managers are career professionals, not owners of units they manage. So as a professionals, they have to do their job professionally. When they select people, when they select their employees, they have to select it professionally. So these are the 6 characteristic of Weber's bureaucracy. A bureaucracy should have these 6 characteristics. Okay, well, that's all for today. We will continue again with the next approaches on the next meeting. Thank you for listening. Have a good day to all.